God's love is enough. God's love is enough. God's love is enough. God's love is enough. Oh, I can't imagine living life without you here with me. So glad this love will last an eternity. Oh, what joy and happiness I feel when I call your name. Now it is plain to see your love for me has helped me sustain. I know that love is enough to forgive all the hurt and pain. Love is enough to remove all the guilt and shame. Love is enough to make up for shortcomings. See, I know that love is enough. God's love is enough. Oh yeah, love is enough. God's 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 love is enough. I know that love is enough. Oh, somebody say love is enough. Everybody come on, let me hear you say love is enough. A love that's gentle, love that's kind. Love is enough. A love that gives me peace of mind. Love is enough. A love is enough to remove all doubt or fear. Love is enough to bring me through any situation. Love is enough to deliver me, to set me free. Love is enough. God's love is enough. I know His love, I know His love. Love is enough. It's a love that's freely given to me. Love is enough. And it's a special kind of love, say love is enough. No greater love have I lived. Love is enough. Than to lay down His life for a friend. Love is enough. Now His love is inside me and you. Love is enough. So just spread love, just spread love. Everybody say trying to find a way to escape. Trying to find a way to escape all the pressure I feel growing inside of me because I'm far away from you, knowing that you are my source, so I gotta find my way back to you, Lord. I've gotta find my way back to you, Lord. I've gotta find my way back to you, Lord. Gotta find my way back to you, Lord. I've gotta find my way back to you, Lord. I've gotta find my way. Darkly, I see no light in front of me. I've come to the conclusion that you are the eyes that see past all confusion to a place called sanity. You take my hand, I'm free. Lord, I've gotta find my way back. said you'd never leave me, nor forsake me, and in all my ways to acknowledge you, and then you'll direct my path if I would keep my mind on you. You said you will keep me, you'll keep me, please keep me, please keep me, Lord.
All right. Good afternoon and welcome everyone to this Friday edition or Friday's episode of Truly Live, where the real you loves you because the real you is
love.
Well, we're so happy and grateful to be here this afternoon. My name is Oliver Blue, and this beautiful dynamic specimen to my right, her name is
Yolanda, beautiful dynamic specimen.
And we are the OK Blues, and we are excited to be here. We're co-founders of Truly Live, and this is our 35th episode.
Wow. Episode 35.
Episode 35. We're getting them under our belt. And tonight's a very special night.
Well, before we get into that, let's just finish. Thank you guys for choosing Truly Live for your source
Go
of
for it.
information, inspiration, transformation, and empowerment.
All right. And we are here each Friday night, Yolanda and I, sharing transformation. And when we say transformation, we're basically sharing principles that can help all of us to take a look at our results and decide that we want different results.
Yes.
And we share transformational principles and a system of transformation that can help all of us to move from our current results to the results that we would love to experience.
Yes. We want people to know that their life has deep meaning and good purpose. And so we help people to consider and pursue results that matter to them so that they live a focused life with purposed attention.
All right.
Our passion is to help those who remain outside, unknowing, unawakened, and in need of a witness of the truth that is true always.
Very good.
All right. So now,
So now we're just going to turn our attention. Tonight's a little special because we have a very special guest. So we're gonna forego some of our preliminaries, and so that we can give as much time as possible to our guest tonight. You know, why would you invite someone to your house and then you don't let them in?
so why don't you go ahead and do the commercial?
Okay.
The intro.
Okay. So as a commercial, as an intro, we're going to
It's right there.
right here. No, it's not down there. It's right here.
Okay.
So as an intro, go ahead and give you a little taste.
Would you look at the time? It's tax time. You already know H&R Block does taxes, but here's what you may not know when you file with H&R Block, like how you can get expert help in person or virtually. Plus, our tax pros average 10 years of experience. You can even request to work with the same tax pro every year, and your biggest possible refund is always guaranteed. No one offers more ways to help with your taxes than H&R Block. At H&R Block, help is here.
And with that, we're going to introduce and bring to our platform our friend, our classmate,
Our
someone
classmate who is a Winston-Salem
that-
State
yes.
University RAM alumni.
someone that we have admired for many, many years. We have watched this young man grow and develop and expand, and have come to be one of the most, in my book, he's one of the most notable entrepreneurs, master tax advisor, financial guru, entrepreneur. I mean, he does it. He's got it going on, and none other than my friend and my classmate Chris Wilson is in the house.
Hey there, everybody. Thank you for that warm introduction. Last time I had an introduction that great, I had to introduce myself.
Well, you have friends in high places.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Happy Financial Literacy Month.
Yes.
Oh, that's what we have just entered into.
Yes, absolutely. April is Financial Literacy Month. This is the 1st of April. And what better time to explore how to be good with your finances?
Yes.
Oh, wow. We're good. Well, our timing is impeccable. And
Absolutely.
yeah, well, thank you so much, Chris, for agreeing to be here on a short notice. And we also know that the month of April represents rejuvenation in nature.
Yes.
There seemed to be, after 3 months of dormancy, there seemed to be a rejuvenation of life. That seemed to be a new vibe of growth and expectation that is connected with the month of April. And along with that, we also know that with the month of April also come, that thing we call tax preparation.
Tax preparation. Today is the 1st of April. We've got 17 more days of tax season ahead of us, and it's been a really crazy time for us, but it's been crazy good. And, we are just plodding along, trying to get it all done and trying to get it all in. Um, One of the things that you might want to consider, one of the things that you still have control over that you can still have an impact on your financial situation, even up to the tax deadline, is funding an IRA.
Okay.
Now, if you haven't funded your IRA for the year for 2021, you can still do that up to the deadline. And what are some of the reasons you might want to do that? Number one, obviously, as we talked about, it's a good financial move. It's always a good financial move to put money away for savings and retirement. But the other benefit you could get with that is it could put you in a lower tax bracket. It has the potential to put you in a lower tax bracket. The tax brackets right now on the lower end are 12% and 22%. So if you've been rolling along year after year and you've been in the 12% bracket, and all of a sudden your income just spills over enough to get you into the 22% tax bracket, you can see a pretty significant sting tax-wise when that happens. And one of the things you can do is just know, okay, are you really well into the 22% tax bracket income-wise? Are you just barely over the threshold of the 22% tax bracket? And in a case where you're just barely over, you could use an IRA contribution to reduce your income and get you back into the 12% bracket. And it could make all the difference in the world in terms of how much you have to pay the state and the federal.
Man, that's a 10% difference.
Yes, absolutely.
And Chris, what about the maximum there's a maximum that you can contribute, is that correct?
There is a maximum. If you're 55 or 50 or older, you can go up to $7,000. If you're under that age, then you can go up to $6,000.
Okay.
Annually to fund your IRA. If you're just getting started with IRAs and you're eligible, if you got a choice between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA, I would certainly say go the route of the Roth IRA. Though while that is funded with after-tax money, when you are in retirement mode and you're starting to draw those funds down, those are funds that you don't have to pay taxes on, and that is always a good thing to do that. If you're funding a traditional IRA with pre-tax money, you're getting the tax benefit now as you build up your retirement, but when you go to draw it down in retirement, it's going to be taxable income. So there's a big difference between the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA. And if you're just getting started, I would encourage those who can. Sometimes your income level won't allow you to put much, if any, in there at all. But if you do have the opportunity to fund an IRA, the better choice is the Roth IRA.
Yeah, that's good information. And let's pause right there for a second and recognize Carol and Bob. Our VIP patrons are in the house with us tonight. And also, we're on a new platform structure tonight, Chris. We are now exclusively streaming live only on YouTube.
Okay.
And, we had reasons for doing that, and so we're exclusively doing our live broadcast on YouTube channel. And if you're here on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification button.
Yes.
Hit the notification button. That way you'll be notified when we are live.
And by all means, like and share.
And by all means,
so that other people will
like and share.
Can be directed to good information.
Yeah.
We want to say hello to all of the other folks that are on watching.
Yep.
We appreciate you, and we're glad that you're here with us with our our favorite master tax advisor, Chris Wilson.
Yeah, yes. So, Chris, I noticed that you said we had 17 more days.
Yes.
Yes.
But I thought that the 15th of April was the date for tax deadline.
It normally is. If you remember last year, we went out to May 15th, which because of the pandemic, we had some extra time there. But this year, the 15th falls on a Friday. It's a holiday Friday, and so we've got until the 18th to complete our taxes this year. So we get 3 extra days over and above what the normal tax deadline would be.
Oh,
So
wow.
that makes the 2022 tax deadline Monday,
Monday,
April
Is
18th.
it Monday? Friday?
right, and
Monday.
that's also Easter weekend, so that's going to be a challenge as well.
Yes. All right.
All right. Well, you know, and I know there's a lot of people that are, kind of in my situation. I'm still, kind of looking at my taxes. And all of us have, different motivations, different situations, different
Yes.
things to consider tax wise. Some of us only have personal taxes to look at. Some of us have, we have to look at it from a joint marital standpoint, and then some of us actually own businesses, and some of us may even have corporations within our portfolio. So, can you kind of give us some kind of general overview of the, if these on each one of these levels, and what we should be and where we should be at this particular point, other than just looking at them?
Yeah, happy to do that. First of all, if you're in a business or a partnership or a corporation, an S corporation, those are what's called a pass-through business entities. The filing deadline for those types of entities was March 15th. So those needed to be done, or you file an extension that will get you out to September the 15th for that deadline. But for the most part, those were done early by March 15th, which those types of entities produce K-1s that then feed into your personal returns. A few years back, the government changed it to where those would be due earlier, so that the K-1s could get done and then be in time for you to use them with your personal tax returns, which is due the middle of the next month, which is April. As you remember, we talked about when I was on earlier, 95% of particularly African American small businesses are LLCs or sole proprietors. And while that is a good way to start a business, once you're on solid footing business wise, it may behoove you to look at upgrading your business entity from a sole proprietor and consider being an S corporation, so that you can get the pass-through benefits, and you also have better control over the self-employment income tax that you ultimately end up paying.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the way that is structured now, so if I have an LLC, which a lot of individuals do have, then that LLC is a filed. That's how you want to explain how that is filed.
So yeah, an
Created for your personal
LLC,
taxes?
just a sole proprietor LLC. That means it's a business. You're the only person running it. Any profits that you have, first of all, that return is filed with your personal return, and so it's not a standalone return like the others are. We just talked about. So they're not due until your personal return is due, which is mid-April. But those returns, any profits you have through your LLC, 100% of those profits are subject to the self-employment tax. And that's not the case. That's not necessarily the case when you have a partnership or an S corporation, which will allow you to have better control over how much you're paying and the self-employment tax, which is really your Medicare and your Social Security taxes.
Right. So you mentioned all profits from a LLC. What about if the LLC has a loss? How does that impact your taxes?
So if there's a loss with your business, it also carries over to your personal return. It's often used to offset income that you may have from other sources. So a loss can be a positive benefit at tax time by reducing your other taxable income and thereby reducing your overall tax picture. So you want to be careful with that. You can have losses for a period of time, but after a certain period of time, the government's going to say, hey, either you got to start making money or you got to turn this over or you got to consider this a hobby. And it'll no longer be considered as a business because you're not, if you go, more than 5 years without making a profit, then the government's gonna has the potential to step in and say, okay, enough is enough. So got to be careful with that. When you're in business, the intent is to make a profit, and you should move in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. That's good information. What about, you mentioned earlier that the concept of getting an extension, and under what circumstances should you file for an extension? And if you do file for an extension, are you penalized once the taxes are filed, whether it be a gain or loss, or whether you owe the government or the government owes you? How does that impact?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you can file an extension, but typically when you file an extension, you are expected to pay what your estimated taxes are, or what you estimate your taxes to be. The filing deadline is a filing deadline. Any penalties and interest will start at that deadline point. So even though you file an extension, that will give you another 6 months to kind of get everything together and actually do the filing. It's in your best interest that when you file an extension, you also make a payment that's an estimate of what you think your taxes will be. Now, having said that, lots of folks will file an extension without paying any additional tax with that, and then just settle up when they actually do the tax return later on. But at that point, you're looking at some penalty and interest as a result of just delaying the actual fact of paying the taxes.
So you will have to pay interest and a penalty if upon the extension.
Yeah. Just depending on the situation, if your taxes are severely underpaid compared to the year before, then there could be penalties involved in that, and then there's also interest as well.
Wow.
So it's kind of good to pay the taxes when the filing deadline is due.
That's right.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess around with the filing deadlines. If you can get it all together and get it done, by all means, get it done by the filing deadline.
And we do have a year to prepare for that, right?
Well, yeah, most people, the 12/31 is the deadline. That's when you need to start reconciling and getting everything together. So you've got from January to April the 18th this year to kind of get it all together and get it processed.
All
A little
right.
different this year than last year because we had to May 15th to make it all happen last year. And now we're back to squeezing it all into by mid-April.
All right.
Wow. Well, everybody's situation is a little different. We understand. And I know there's been times, I don't think I've ever filed an extension, but there's been a time where I've owed the government, you know, a nice piece of money, and I didn't want to pay them on April 15th. So I delayed paying them. Or I set up a payment plan.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about how that works to your advantage, or when you should use that option?
Yeah. The one thing you don't want to do is just ignore your tax liability.
Right.
You can't bury your head in the sand and just think this will go away. If you owe, you know, process, file the tax return. If you're not able to pay the funds at that point in time, like you said, you can set up a payment plan and pay it over time to get it taken care of. But to just not do anything about it only makes the problem worse, and you know, it builds, and so it's not a good idea to just ignore it.
Ignore it, yeah.
Yeah.
So with the plan, does that eliminate interest and penalty if you got a approved plan?
Not necessarily. If you're going to have to pay. If you're paying over time, there's going to be some interest involved in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So one of the things you can do to avoid that is to just pay estimated taxes, quarterly estimated taxes. I know that
Yes.
doesn't sound like something fun to do, and in most cases it's not, but it helps you to manage the overall tax liability throughout the course of the year. You know, you can get with your tax professional and estimate what your taxes are going to be for next year based off of what happened this year, and then you can divide that up into 4 equal payments and just make estimated payments over the course of the year to kind of lighten the burden, if you will, of having to pay the large amount at one time at tax time.
Yes.
So always a good thing there.
Always a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. So you know, some of us used electronic filing through H&R Block or other means, and
Yes.
so can you talk a little bit about the advantages or disadvantages
Or
of,
just the process.
or just the process
Mhm.
of choosing to electronically file versus,
Yeah.
you know, having a tax advisor like yourself?
Yeah. As we all know, the IRS is understaffed. If you've ever tried to reach out to them in the last few years, it takes some time to get through, to get issues resolved. And it's not like this is a secret. Congress knows that they're underfunded, they're understaffed. I think they're starting to this year hire, I think, around 5,000 or so more associates
Wow.
to help. But if anything, if you're filing if you're sending anything to the government through the U.S. Postal or the U.S. Mail, you can just anticipate that there's going to be a longer delay in getting a response. The pandemic has really set the IRS back. There's lots and lots of mail that just piled up during the pandemic, and they still haven't waded through all of it. So electronic filing is one of the bright spots that if you file a return and you have everything in there that should be in there, that the government's expecting you to have in there, and everything goes smoothly, then you can get a refund or a turnaround fairly quickly because everything can go electronically, and automation helps in that regard. But if you do something that causes your return not to be able to be processed 100% electronically, then it gets off on a manual track, and then there's just no telling at that point when you'll get a turnaround.
Right.
So a lot of letters went out this year at the beginning of the year around how much stimulus money you got, and that you need to get that information exactly right. If you don't, it could cause your return to be derailed, and a manual process is involved, and that could delay your refund from that standpoint. So it's important to wait for all of the documents, or you could go online and get this information, but you want to make certain that it is accurate, the information you put on your return, before you hit the button to send it electronically. Just can make a world of difference in terms of how fast you get your refund back.
Yeah. Is that
Speaking of
go
the
ahead.
speaking of the stimulus money, so people that normally would not have to file taxes because they don't don't have a certain amount of income,
Right.
will the stimulus money impact those people greatly, do you think?
No, stimulus money is not taxable,
Okay.
but you do have to report,
It's reportable.
whether you got it.
Okay.
Got it. And this year, for the first year, if you're not required to file, you could still file and still get a refund back from the government in the form of earned income credit if your income falls within a certain range. Not required to file. I would encourage you, if you're not required to file, to go ahead and file anyway, because if there's any more stimulus money or government money given out in the future, they tend to drive off whether or not you have a tax return on file.
Yes.
And when you don't have one on file and everybody's getting checks,
You
now
get
you
to
got to figure out how to get the government to recognize you. And yeah, it's to your benefit to file, even if you're not required to file. And there are ways to do that are fairly inexpensive.
Yeah. So they send you to the back of the line if you haven't filed.
They will send you to the back of the line, or to not recognize you at all, which is even worse. But if you don't get it, if you didn't get stimulus when stimulus was being handed out, you are eligible to get it when you actually filed your tax return.
Taxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the threshold for not filing taxes, Chris?
It's about $9,000. If anything under $9,000 as gross income for the year is not required to file. Somewhere between $9,000 and $10,000 range there. And of course, if you're itemizing, they're going to give you, as a married couple, you'll get $25,000 right off the bat. That's deductible.
So that wipes that out, right?
That would wipe it out. Yeah.
Okay. But if you're single,
it would be about $12,000.
what the standard deduction is?
Standard deduction, yeah, about half that. But if you've got some earned income right around the $9,000 or so, that would make you eligible for some earned income credit if you're a single person. So you normally wouldn't have to file, but this is the first year that if you filed, you may be eligible to get some earned income credit, which is refundable tax refund.
Is Social Security considered earned income?
It is not considered earned income. And
So what
Social
about
Security.
So what about those people that are getting their Social Security and got the stimulus money?
So if that's all they have, then there's a good likelihood that they don't have to file taxes. There's no tax due. But if you got Social Security and you got pensions and you got real estate and you got other sources of income, just depending on how much of the other stuff you have, as to how much your Social Security may be taxed. It could be taxed at 75, 80%, or not taxed at all.
Those were all the questions that people told me to ask.
Well, yes, and if you have joined us since we started tonight on TRULYob here, we have our special guest, Chris Wilson, the Master Tax Advisor, owner and operator of 14 H&R Blocks location throughout North Carolina and Virginia. Chris is also an entrepreneur, also he's just a financial guru. And Chris also advises in the area of investments and other financial areas. So, Chris, we don't have to limit the conversation tonight just to taxes.
Okay.
You mentioned at the very beginning of your presentation that this is financial literacy
Financial literacy month.
month.
Mhm.
Yes.
And so what all is made available during the month of April to educate the community on financial literacy?
So the elephant in the room around financial literacy is the I word, inflation. Inflation across the nation. Everybody's feeling it. Everybody's feeling the pinch. We've been fortunate as a country for the last 3 decades or so to have inflation relatively calm and non-existent. But since it was the early 80s when we had inflation at the rates that we have it now, and it's real,
Yes.
and people are starting to feel that. If you're on fixed income, now gas prices are through the roof, food prices are through the roof. Now you're trying to figure out how you're going to make ends meet.
Mhm.
That gets to be challenging for someone on fixed income, and it also drives them to start, looking at or doing things differently. So it could ultimately drive people back into the workplace, maybe if nothing else, on a part-time basis, just to try to make ends meet.
Right.
But yeah, that's the thing about it. The month of April is a time where we want to try to ensure that you learn about how to be smart with your money, or how to be smart with finances. So we're real excited about being able to help and to offer different training and education around all things financial.
Okay, and this is made available through your H&R Block offices.
It is. We actually have some social media information out there. I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, we'll be posting throughout the month information on that relates to financial literacy. I just posted some today about how to be smart with money. You can go there and connect with me and have access to all of that information that's out there.
What's your LinkedIn information?
Um, just that you look me up on LinkedIn, Chris Wilson, H&R Block franchisee.
All right.
Shouldn't be too hard to find.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Chris,
Yes.
inflation, and some of our audience are investors in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, this market has been good over the last couple decades, and
Mm-hmm.
and it still really, given the external condition, it still remains somewhat good. It takes the the daily dives or the weekly dives, but it seemed to just continue to just bounce back. Um, and from an investor standpoint, in terms of how that affects one's tax status, or how one protects the value or grows the value of his portfolio. Uh, what is your approach? Of what advice can you offer the Truly Live audience concerning investment in this current environment?
So I first want to put out there a disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor, um, and um, but one of the things you have to consider is, how much time you're going to be investing. What's your horizon, your time horizon for investing? So the more time you have, the more risk you're able to take on. And if you're close to retirement or even in retirement, then you want to kind of start backing away from the market. Not fully, not 100% out of the market. You need to have some exposure to the market for the very reason that we talked about, is that inflation is real, and it eats away at your buying power. So you need to have some exposure to the market. But if you're in retirement mode, you want to have most of your money in a fixed income situation. but then also have some of it exposed to the market, which will grow. It does go up and down, but over the long term, it tends to go up and down in a northeasterly direction.
Mm-hmm.
I have a model that I've used I've kind of modeled out for the last 11, 12 years that shows. First of all, I don't advise that those who are looking at retiring put 100% of their retirement income into an annuity. While that feels safe and it looks safe, there is risk associated with doing that. And the risk is what we're facing today. Let's say if you retired 10 years ago and you put your retirement money into an annuity. Well, the amount of money that you're getting from your annuity hasn't changed. And you're 10 years out into retirement. And now that, what that money bought 10 years ago, it won't buy today. So you've got to start looking at doing something else or figuring out some other ways to make ends meet. There's a better way to do that. I'd say put, what the annuity companies do, you can actually do yourself. And the key difference there is that you keep control of your funds. And the model that I have, and I'm happy to share it with anybody who wants to see it, is a model to where you invest, you keep 70% of your money in a fixed income mode, and 30% you would expose to the S&P 500. And the model that I've kind of shown over the last 11 years shows that you could start, for example, I've started with about $375,000 as a model back in 2010. And using that model to where you have 30% of your money exposed to the market and the other 70% safe, and you draw down 4% of those funds a year. And after 2021, if you started with 375,000, you would still have $380,000 to invest, and you will have drawn down 4% of the money every year for the last 11, 12 years. Now that shows that the S&P 500, for the last 3 years, it has had double-digit growth.
Yes.
But there are some years when you can't expect that to be the case. In fact, in 2018, the S&P was down 4.18%. So there will be some rough go there. But at the end of the day, you still have control of your money, and you still, as the investments grow over time, and you're still drawing down 4%. That 4% amount gets to be a bigger amount if your investment portfolio is growing your overall portfolio.
So what you're saying is, because most financial planners or companies come at you with this, they lead with the annuity.
A lot of them do.
But what you're saying is that annuity results in a fixed payment.
It doesn't result in a fixed payment.
And you don't have the ability to adjust that with the inflation.
Most of them don't.
Right.
There are some that do. But the first thing that most of these sales folks will try to sell you is something that's a plain vanilla annuity, and where it's a fixed number. Mm-hmm. It looks good in year one. It feels good in year one, but in year 10, it gets to be a challenge.
Because lack of flexibility.
Right.
But you're saying taking those same funds and control them yourself by putting them in a fixed, put them in a
keep
safe,
control of it.
Right.
Part of it is fixed, or maybe a savings account. I know you can get I bonds, inflation bonds buy those directly from the government. They're paying 7.5% right now. The most you can get on that the most you can put in that is $10,000 a year. But those I bonds are available directly through the Treasury. You can't get them at the bank. You can cash them in at the bank, but you can't purchase them at the bank.
Right. So government.
So that's a good way to to shelter some of your funds while you're holding on to it. And the other is just a exposure of 30% of your money to what I call the S&P 500 index fund. So that's a good way to go. That's a good way to go. The model over the past 11 years has it has kept pace. And the important piece of that is that because you've kept control of your money, you haven't turned it over to an annuity company. When you do expire, there's an inheritance that gets passed on to your heirs.
Versus with an annuity.
It dissipates into thin air.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is really something to consider.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this makes me think about, Chris. I've seen a lot of commercials for people to go ahead and do their funeral expenses. So you would pay for that in advance. And that was the thought that I had about funeral, going ahead and prepaying for your funeral costs, because it too increases. The cost of funerals increases. And so if you've already prepaid and then you expire, several years later, then your preparation for your funeral cost is not going to cover what the current funeral costs are. But it's a real big push to do that now.
Yeah, I can't say I'm familiar with what that looks like and what that feels like. I'm going to leave my funeral expenses up to whoever's responsible for it. I just can't bring myself to pay for those
in advance.
In advance, no.
Well, I'm following your lead. Wow. Well, Chris, what
it may
about
be a smart thing to do, but it's just not one of the things that I'm going to do.
Well, Chris, what about the guy or the girl that's just starting out in their career, or the guy or the girl that's in their 30s and maybe changing careers? Where from a tax or an investment point of view, what should they be considering?
I would say the Roth IRA, if it's available to you, fund it. And then once it's there, just invest it in the S&P. If you're not inclined to track and monitor and pick stocks, just go with the S&P 500. Just funnel those funds into the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is a proxy for the American economy. There's 500 stocks there. All of the major popular stocks are included in the S&P 500. There's about 12, 13 different sectors that make up the S&P 500. So you're really investing in the American economy when you buy the S&P 500.
So that 500 really denotes that there are 500 stocks that are invested in that portfolio.
Yes.
And across multiple business segments.
Exactly.
And then generally it's driven by those best performing.
By the American economy. When the American economy does well, that fund will do well. When it doesn't, that fund will be down. So yeah, that's the give and take you have there. But if you look back over history and you look at the chart of the S&P and the Dow and the NASDAQ, all of those things have, they're choppy in the short term, but they're choppy moving up.
Northeast.
Northeast,
Yeah.
yes. So if you can just stay the course, and young people have more time on their side than anything else, and just be consistent in funding that, even when you move jobs, just continue to take it, roll it over, and not roll it out, and use it if you can, but continue to roll it over. If you start in your 20s and investing consistently, by the time you're 50, you're ready to retire. You could easily retire based on getting started early and being consistent as a an investor in your retirement future.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, because in our generation as boomers, most of us, if we work for a corporation, we started with that corporation with some type of company funded pension.
Yes,
But in this current environment, a lot of the new starters, the young upstarts with their new careers, um, their
so, yeah, those
their
pensions.
their company is not offering the pension. So it puts a greater responsibility on them having financial awareness or literacy, like you say, to know what to do. I know a lot of times that when you're young, you're not thinking about when you turn 50 or 60, but it's a reality that um, if you don't get that advice up front, then years down the road you end up having to play catch up or um,
Absolutely.
so
And
So,
50,
so some of the
50
things
comes
that we
around
can
quicker than
do.
you think.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
50 comes around quicker than you think.
Yes, it does, and it'll pass you by quicker than you
and
think
it'll
Yes, it
too.
pass you
will.
by.
It
Yeah.
passes even quicker.
Yes.
But what we can do as baby boomers, we're here. We know the benefit of long-term savings. So, one of the things I do is for children and when the child is born, we'll establish um, an investment brokerage account in the name of the kid. Um, you can do that once the child has a social security number. You can establish a brokerage account for them and start funding it. And that's what we can do as um, baby boomers. Instead of buying that toy of the moment, establish a brokerage account and put money in there initially. And every time the birthday rolls around, do make a contribution of some sort. You won't be the fun uncle or aunt or cousin, but they'll certainly appreciate it somewhere down the road.
Right.
So that's
Yes.
one of the things that we could do is
Yes.
just to help that.
All right. Well, if you're out there, if you got any pressing questions, you can put them in the chat. Chris is here to address any questions that the viewers may have. And I guess we put a lot of good questions out there, and you've addressed a lot of our concerns. And so if there's any other area that we may have not touched on, you free to share with us.
So yeah, like I said earlier, this is Financial Literacy Month. I would encourage you to learn something, pick up a book, attend a seminar around being better with money, and just take advantage of all of the financial education that's out there and around you. You just have to be intentional about making a plan to be better with finances and to be better with money.
Yes, absolutely. There was this idea back when I was just getting started where um, people were using their insurance as an investment vehicle.
Hmm.
But I over the years I've learned that insurance is not an investment, right? Or
Right.
correct me if I'm wrong. So I mean, what is your view on insurance investments and how should that be kept separate?
My personal preference is to use insurance for what it's intended for, is to kind of bridge the unexpected. And if you're using it in that way, you want to get it in the cheapest form you can get it, and oftentimes that's in a term policy.
Right.
Um, and then just invest the other money that you might have tied up in a vehicle like that. Now, this is my personal preference. Um, and invest that for yourself, and just buy term insurance to cover the needs that let it serve the need it's intended for, and plan for a longevity by investing long term in in something. It doesn't necessarily have to be the stock market. It could be real estate, or rental property, or whatever the case might be. But be an investor. Just be an investor. You live in a capitalistic society, and that's what the United States is. It's a capitalistic country, and so we need to be participants in how the whole economy works, not only as consumers but also as investors.
All right. Well, there's a question. You want to put it up?
What
There's a-
about the 401k? Do you recommend companies to invest in, or can you recommend companies? I think this viewer got on a little later, but Chris did an extensive. He talked a lot about investing in the S&P 500. You want to speak more to that, Chris?
Yeah, sure. So normally when you're in a 401k, you don't get an opportunity, and not unless you're directing and controlling it yourself. You don't get an opportunity to invest in individual companies. So they're like mutual funds that you have to choose from. And there are the life cycle funds that are available to you. Typically, the farther out the year, like it might be 2030 fund or a 2050 fund. So the further out it is, the more aggressively invested it is, and as it gets close to your retirement date, they tend to pull back into more conservative type investments, because you just don't have the time horizon if the market were to pull back to recover. So I would go with the themes of the younger you are, the more aggressively you invest. And as you get closer to retirement date, those funds will adjust. Those age-related funds, like a 2030 or 2040 fund, they are designed to, when it gets closer to 2040, they're going to be investing in less risky investments. So if you've been investing in that all the time, looking forward to 2040 being the time that you're going to retire. When you first started 20 years ago, it was investing aggressively, but by the time you reach that point, it has changed and is investing a little more conservatively. Those are good funds to get into, particularly early on.
Right. So if I'm working for a company and they don't even provide they don't even provide or offer a company funded 401k or actually have a vehicle for you to invest in a 401k through the company.
Yeah.
If I'm having to go outside of my company and set up my own Roth 401k, what type of institutions can I go to for that?
That's a great question. You can go to your local bank. You can go online. You can go to places like E-Trade. I tend to like E-Trade. I tend to stay away from Robinhood, because Robinhood is more of a trader's platform. And if you got a Robinhood account, it's going to be pinging at you all day long. And it's going to be saying, okay, hey, you made money here, you made money there, and it's just going to have your attention. Investors don't, the watch pot never boils. And so as an investor, you need to invest. You need to look at companies and say, how 5 years from now, will this be a good investment? And invest with that idea in mind, and not with the idea that I bought it this morning at 10 a.m. and I'm going to sell it at 10:30 this morning. So those platforms will keep your attention and keep you involved in it, and in the format of being a trader. And you don't want to be a trader, you want to be an investor.
So you said E-Trade.
E-Trade, go to your local bank.
Right.
Banks have brokerage accounts. And
Uh,
I would encourage you to get accounts that you don't have to pay fees for.
mhm.
They are out there. A brokerage account shouldn't cost you anything in this day and time. There was a time when they did have fees associated with them, but E-Trade doesn't cost you to set up an account. Your local bank, if they do, they shouldn't. And then if they do, then don't use it um, to set up your brokerage account.
Yeah. Would you recommend Fidelity?
Fidelity is a good
It's
place
good
to go.
source.
Yes, all of the mutual fund houses are good places to establish brokerage accounts as well.
Mhm.
All right. Well, man, we've come up to the top of the hour.
Wow.
All right. Well, I hope this
And
has been helpful.
It's been very
oh
helpful.
man,
Thank
listen,
you
we
so
got
very
we got
much.
it documented.
All right.
We got all this information documented, and we'll be sharing this between now and the 18th in many different ways.
Yeah.
Though we are on exclusively live on YouTube, we still will use our other platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, to share this information. It may go out in bits and pieces, may not be the entire program, but we will still use those platforms to share. But our goal is to draw all of our viewers over to this platform, um, so that
Well,
so that we can scale what we're doing.
yeah, we are available to help anyone with their taxes. At this point in time, we can do things virtually. Regardless of where you are, you could upload your documents. We could do the tax return. We could do the interview through virtual. You could pay for it. We could store it out there for you and keep it for you, and you never have to set foot in the office.
Right.
Or, if you want to come to the office, you're welcome to do that as well. But we can help serve you wherever you are and however you want to get your taxes done. We can help you.
Yeah.
Help is here.
Yeah. And we noticed on your advertisement that there are other financial services that you provide other than tax preparation.
That's right. We do bookkeeping and payroll for business services clients for small businesses. And one of the things I'd like to say, if one of the things that can be in your favor, and if you're starting a business, is to make sure you've got a bookkeeper or an accountant on your team. That's the one driving factor that helps determine whether or not your business is going to be successful beyond the average time frame for a small business to kind of start and fail. If you get an accountant or a bookkeeper on your team, that person can serve as an advisor for you and to help you be better at business and to continue in business and to stay in business.
Outstanding.
Outstanding. Yes. Yes. Well, Chris, this has been so informative. That's one of the virtues that we advertise with TRULYob, that we are an informative platform, and your expertise again have been timely for our audience, and we really appreciate your freely sharing. And
Absolutely.
Yolanda just put up your contact information. And
Okay.
for any of our viewers out there, they can reach out to you via your business phone, and as well as we know that his email address is
CH Wilson.
at hnrblock.com. Is that correct?
HRBlock.com.
hrblock.com.
Yeah. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn.
At hrblock.com. Yeah. So
Well, I appreciate being invited back for the second time. It's always fun to be on live with the fellow Rams.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you're part of our community now, and we're partners.
Absolutely.
And we're really gonna set up a special session for you with our patrons somewhere down the road. And
Would love to do that. We could get
yes,
into the nuts and bolts of my
that,
my process,
absolutely. And that
and
way
just
we'll be
unpack it and let people ask whatever questions they
right.
want to ask.
Right. That way you can look at the faces
Yes,
and pick up on questions that people are thinking about.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, honey, and is that it?
That's
That is
gonna
it?
put
Oh, my
this, I'm gonna
goodness.
put that one up there to his email address and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So let us just do our loving kindness meditation. Chris, thank you so much. And of course, thank you so much to Mrs. Wilson, because we know that Friday
Yes.
night is date night.
Yes.
Friday night is
So
date night. Yep.
thank you so much, Gwen.
Thank
We
you again,
appreciate
Thank you,
Yolanda,
we
Gwen.
appreciate you,
Appreciate
Gwen.
it.
Oliver.
And thank you, Chris.
And thank you so much, Chris, from the Truly Live community. We greatly appreciate this. This
Yes.
is good information, and we're going to govern ourselves accordingly.
Yes.
We're going to get
All
Oliver
right.
to not look at the taxes, but to go ahead and get them filed.
All right. Well,
Good
with that said, we always like to end our broadcast by blessing all of humanity, right?
Yes.
Blessing the
So
whole
we
universe.
bless all who join with us and those that you hold near and dear in your heart.
So we say, may you be truly happy.
May you live in peace.
May you live in love.
May you know the power of forgiveness.
May you live in the recognition that your life has deep meaning and good purpose.
That's the Dalai Lama loving kindness meditation, which we do as a blessing. And then we add, may you live in the awareness of who you truly are. We extend this blessing to every being that's on the planet. And so it is.
And so it is. And so it is time for us to close it out.
All right.
And my name is Oliver.
I'm Yolanda.
And we are the OK Blues.
I know I have not always been what you want me to be. Even at times I pushed your sweet love away, but you stay right here beside me, never letting me go. Now I know the love I needed was right here all along. I know that love to forgive all the hurt and pain. Love is enough to remove all the guilt and shame. Love is enough to make up for what hurt and pain. I know that love is enough. God's love is enough.